Welcome back to Certified Examiner Training. Again, this is a refresher course. And we're going to jump right back into some main things to remember during the test. A few more pre-test things, how to score and so forth. Remember to introduce yourself. Tell them your name. Hi, my name's Ryan. I'll be your examiner today. Ask the applicant if they've read the test appointment brochure or your test policy, if they have any questions. So something like, have you had a chance to read the brochure? And do you have any questions about it? Make sure the applicant has signed the school's exam policy, the score sheet, and the temporary authorization to drive if they don't have a valid permit or license from another country. Check to see if they are wearing a seatbelt. When you go to do your check ride every year to ensure that you know how to do this correctly, this is on the test. The examiner probably won't be wearing a seatbelt. You'll have to remind them to put it on. You can't conduct the test if they are unbelted. You'll be asked to do the hand signals of the course. Occasionally alternate the order in which you give them. Now, if they don't know the hand signals, it does happen. You can either provide them a resource, you can hand it to them and have them teach themselves. You can send them back into your location if you've got a poster on the wall. What you cannot do is you cannot teach it to them and show them how to do the hand signals. It's something they're supposed to know. Okay, and a lot of people ask, why do we need to know the hand signals? Well, because we're supposed to demonstrate that we can recognize the signals that bicyclists are using. That's the main reason. You'll also do the brake reaction test. You're going to stand outside the vehicle. Don't do this inside the vehicle. You have to say this phrase exactly. So all this stuff you do before the test is pretty loose. You don't have to say it exactly. But this phrase you must say exactly. I'm going to check your ability to stop. Put your foot on the gas pedal. When I say stop, step on the brake as quickly as you can. Wait just a brief moment, then say stop. Ensure that the applicant can move their foot over to the brake in time. You're checking to make sure they can stop quickly in case of an emergency, especially if you're using their car and you don't have a brake on your side. Slow reaction times might be that lack of mobility. This is very rare, but if there is a limitation, you're going to see it here. If they don't understand, rephrase the instructions. Then you have to say the same exact verbiage. So you can say something like, you have your foot on the gas pedal. You can use your hand to demonstrate and say, as soon as I say stop, just move your foot over to the brake as quickly as you can. All right, ready to try again? And now you do the, I'm going to check your ability to stop. Put your foot on the gas pedal. When I say stop, step on the brake as quickly as you can. Stop. Remember to say it exactly. Okay. More guidelines for administering the test. You have to follow the test course's outline. You can't take out any part of the test. We've got to give this test in a uniform manner. It has to be done the same for everybody. A few more points to remember here. Make sure you give the instructions far enough in advance to make sure they can safely complete the maneuver. Try to look at them and use a normal conversational tone. Try to be professional and courteous. Remember, you're just a scoring machine. Right? You're not there to inject opinions. You're not there to teach. You're not there to coach or to criticize. You're just there to be a GPS and to observe technical errors. And that's it. And be courteous along the way. Remember this. Score as if other traffic is present, whether they're there or not. So what this means is, let's just say, for example, you're on the side of the road. You did the starting maneuver. You've driven to the side of the road and you've directed the applicant, re-enter traffic. They've looked over their shoulder and they don't see anybody there, so they don't bother using your signal. Now you can't say to yourself, well, there was nobody there, they don't have to signal. They do. You have to score as if there was other traffic present, whether they were there or not. Also during the test, try not to hurry them and avoid appearing impatient. There's no time limit. I've had the backing around the corner maneuver take 9 minutes. That's the record so far. Sometimes it just takes a while. Make sure you block off enough time to get them done. Now, an applicant may decide to stop the drive test. They're like, I can't continue. Sometimes anxiety gets the best of folks. You're not supposed to encourage them to continue. Now, if they lose control, you've got to be ready and assume control. So it may mean verbal or physical control, turning the steering wheel, applying the parking brake, turning off the engine. This also means keep your left hand free so that you can grab the wheel to prevent a bad turn or lane change if needed. Make sure you watch everything they do. Try not to get in the habit of just watching only one or two things. Sometimes this will feel a little creepy, but it does help if you turn yourself a little toward the applicant. See any of those slight vision checks you might be missing. Okay. Now remember, only the examiner and the applicant taking the exam are allowed in the car. If needed, a service animal can be in the car. No emotional support animals. I once had a exam where a young lady was going to bring, she said, I need to bring my service dog with me. I said, okay. And then we get up to go, and the boyfriend gets up too, holding the dog. I said, well, he's not your service animal. He has to stay here. Well, he's going to hold the dog. I said, well, he can't hold the dog. You can bring the service animal, but the service animal has to be able to behave, right, without us intervening. Because if the service animal is out of control, then we can disqualify the service animal from attending with you. Okay, so it just, I'll let you decide. The dog ended up staying with the boyfriend in the lobby. Now remember, service animals, yes. Emotional support animals, no. So if needed, an interpreter for the hard of hearing is allowed. I want you to see the requirements. Currently, the requirements are the sign language interpreter must be on the Washington State Directory of Court-Approved Interpreters. There are not very many of them. They're also very busy, so it may take weeks for you to get one. Okay, there's also some requirements, which I won't get too deeply into here, but your school has to pay for the interpreter, although you get a tax credit at the end of the year. So if the interpreter charges you $200, then you just take $200 off your tax liability at the end of the year. So I'm not here to give you tax advice other than tell you don't get too excited when you're like, what do you mean I have to pay for it? Yes, yes you do. The school has to pay for it. Yes. And they do have to be on the Washington State Directory of Court-Approved Interpreters. All right, during the test, if an ignition interlock device warning signal sounds, so it requires the driver to blow into it, we're supposed to instruct the applicant to drive to the side of the road and stop. Right, so it's a good thing if you can plan to take the route where you have the starting maneuver done early, or a place where you can do that. Because in my experience, these go off when you start the car and usually somewhere between 3 and 5 minutes after that. But then usually not again for a third time. So when the breath sampling is complete, just re-enter traffic, continue with the drive test. And yeah, this can count as your starting maneuver if you use it just for that. Remember to don't rely on your memory. Score it as it happens, as you see it. Try not to be too quick to assume control unless it's obvious they cannot safely continue. Try to score inconspicuously but not secretly. Don't be obnoxious about it. I've seen examiners do this and it's unnerving for the person taking the test. And again, big deal, do not deviate from the manual by putting your own interpretations on the test scoring. Follow it as it is written. Right? You can use the job aid sheet. They ask you not to look at it while the car is moving or when you're providing instructions. Remember to use good judgment with scoring. Make sure the penalty, I want you to keep these two words in your head at all times, obvious and significant. Okay, the DOL auditor that was tasked with writing this manual, which basically they're copying from the License Service Office side, took it very seriously. The great Ted Larson, retired as of late 2023. Loved it when he would come in and do our audits. We'd have great discussions about the finer technical points of this. And the words he always used, make sure it's significant. Make sure it's a significant penalty. And it's obvious to everyone. Here's a big one. If you didn't see it happen, or if the error is not listed in the manual, you don't score it. You don't score it. So if somebody goes into a curve going too fast and the car feels out of control, it's really not scoreable because it's not a turn, right? You're in a curve and you're going a little too fast. Still going the speed limit. Probably should have gone 15 in that curve, and instead they decided to do 30. Not scoreable. Teaching versus testing. Remember, it is not appropriate or allowed to provide training during the drive test. So don't warn people about their habits, right? Don't caution them like this guy's doing. Oh, you need to slow down earlier. Don't coach, prompt, encourage. Don't use reference signs or add unnecessary conversation. Remember, you can't discuss rules of the road. You can't tell them what the speed limit is. They need to know that. They're all supposed to know the maximum speed limit for cities and towns, unless otherwise posted, is 25 miles per hour. So that's something that they need to know. They also need to look for the signs. Try not to acknowledge correctness once the test started, such as, good job, you're doing it right. Don't talk about the scoring until the test has ended. Remember not to point out elements in the traffic scene. Don't point out things such as, at the stop sign, turn left. You're not supposed to point out the stop sign. You're supposed to say, at the next corner, turn left or turn right. Try not to do this. Don't do a big obnoxious blind spot check prior to the applicant looking so that you can check for traffic. We're supposed to wait until they just about start to move and do their visual check before you check to make sure as well. You'll have enough time to stop. You're a professional after all. Please also don't provide pointers or prompts such as, "Are you sure that's all?" while you're waiting for them to set the parking brake on the hill parking maneuver. And I'll tell you, sometimes I'll do this. They'll park the car and they haven't set the parking brake. I'm going to make just a brief motion of looking to check the tires, because one, I do need to check the tires, but I'm probably going to take about 3 seconds instead of the half second it actually takes me. If they get the parking brake on in that 3-second window, we're good. If they don't, re-enter traffic. Remember, make sure you do not announce the name of the maneuver, such as, "Now we're going to do the parallel parking maneuver." Don't say that. Don't say that. You use the verbiage as it's written. In this case, there's no car behind this one. You say, "You see that SUV on the right?" Yes. Imagine another vehicle parked 1.5 car lengths to the rear. Parallel park between the two. That's all you can say. We're going to go over the score sheet here, some of the basics on it. Remember, you can only use this for testing, actual testing, not for practices, not for warm-ups, not for lessons. Keep the original score sheet with the file. So hopefully your school is using the 2-part form with the one copy on top and then one that makes a carbon copy below it. Give the copy one to the applicant. You keep the original. You are required to offer a copy to the applicant, but they are free to decline it. Remember, it's got their license number on it, so be kind and shred it, yeah? All right, remember, you got to make sure this is filled out before you get out there. So make sure the applicant's name is shown on the records or on their ID or permit. Last name, first name, middle initial. Make sure the date of birth matches what's shown on their ID. Type the license number, or write out the license number on it. Make sure your school name is on there and the number, the license number of your school. If your school's proactive, they'll already have pre-printed this on the form and the school license number and the location. Right? Make sure you print the route number you're going to use. Remember, you're supposed to alternate them. Today's date, of course. What kind of ID they use. So try to use shorthand code like this. Washington ID, USA, PP for US passport, something like that. Shorthand code, because when the Department of Licensing comes out for their annual audit and they pull out a bunch of records to look at, they want to see that the ID you wrote down matches what was shown to them when they presented themselves to get a license. If you put Washington State ID but they didn't actually have one, that's a problem. That's a problem for you and for the school. So make sure you get it right and put down the one that's on there. Make sure you print the name of the city where the school is located. Hopefully, again, your school pre-prints them with this on there already. And make sure you sign it. See down in the bottom right, you sign it. Put your instructor number on there. You're required to put that on there. Make sure the applicant signs the score sheet before you begin the test. Do it before the test starts. Make sure the signature matches. Write the start time on before you go. After you check the car, do the hand signals, brake reaction test. Now you write that time in here. So you may have started the hand signals at 9 a.m., but you got in the car and said, "All right, let's turn to the right." That's 9:03. That's the time you start. The test ends once you return to the school and the car is turned off. Remember to make sure that car is turned off before you take your seatbelt off. The test should take about 15-20 minutes. Enter that time here. All right, you filled out the top successfully. So remember, the score sheet is divided into maneuvers with specific points for evaluation. We've got an extra E in points because we're fancy here. Each mistake or omission is scored by a point deduction. So we're going to get a 2-point penalty for leaving that E in points. If the performance on a single maneuver is unsatisfactory, points are deducted. Now there are 119 of them on here. 119 technical errors. Each driving error or omission is scored by circling the point deductions. So if they put one tire up on top of the curb here during parallel parking, you're going to circle that because it happened. Make sure you circle it clearly so we can see, yes, that's what happened. We did commit that. It wasn't a stray mark. Remember, do not circle the point deductions at subscore until the test is over. This helps remove bias from the test. That way you can focus on the applicant and the surroundings and not do mental math in your head while the test is going on. Here's the other thing to remember, and I heard this from the first auditor who told me this way back in 2012, or the beginning of 2013 when they first started allowing schools to do this, the end of 2012, beginning of 2013. Scoring only begins once you've left the parking lot or entering the roadway. The only thing you'll score before that is attention if they blow through a stop sign in the parking lot or if you have to stop them for dangerous action, okay? And collisions, right? The only exception to that. You don't score in the parking lot except for those things. So the scoring system has 3 different categories of errors. The danger potential, that's right up at the top. So it could be dangerous if there was others present, traffic, pedestrians, or cyclists. The lack of skill is not particularly dangerous, but clearly indicates that they are not able to perform this. So in this case, this is the parallel parking scoring one. They bumped into the curb. They struck the curb during this because of a lack of skill. And congestion potential, CP. So it's not necessarily dangerous, not necessarily a lack of skill, but might slow down the normal flow of traffic. So again, these categories are largely irrelevant to the people who are taking the test. It's really just for your information how they're sorted. So when the error occurs, circle the abbreviation for the skill in which the error was made. Don't score the same error on more than one location on the sheet. So if it's duplicated, put a line through it. You can go in either direction. If they hit the curb 3 times, you're going to circle it and put a line through it, put another line through it. If they keep hitting the curb, and you're going to put more lines through it until finally it's just a big blob. That doesn't happen often, but it does. Circle every error you see during the test. A technical error happened, you circle it. Or draw a line through it if they did it again. Remember that errors must meet the given definition to be scored. You're not allowed to interpret your own, what you think it means, okay? So at the end of the test, make sure you circle the corresponding point deduction for the error. So in this case, parallel parking, division penalty, you're going to circle the 4. If they only committed the 1, they went out for another try, but everything else is fine, you're just going to circle the 2. Okay, so you'll see things in that horizontal line there, and then within that box. So if they committed any error, or multiple errors within that box, you only circle the 4. If on that CP line there, they only committed that 1 error, or if they committed all 3, try to center and multiple times, you still only circle the 2. Okay. Now remember, only circle the maximum point deduction in each section after you review the errors. So in this case, in parallel parking, they jockeyed, they moved the car too many times, and distant, they were parked more than 12 inches from the curb, right? That's not correct. Don't circle both those inner scores. They lost 4 points. You've got to circle the maximum. The maximum that was lost for that maneuver under the parallel parking section. This is important. Sometimes people forget this. I don't want you to forget it. Look at this carefully and make sure you get it right. Which one is correct, which one is incorrect. If they've lost 4 points, if the maximum they can lose is 4 points, if they lose, both lines of those 2s there, they've lost 4 points. The maximum allowable points that can be deducted for the category. We got our error circle for both lack of skill and congestion potential, score the maximum deduction. Here's another example. So which one's correct? This one or that one? Remember, you only circle the maximum number of points you can lose in parallel parking is 4, so that one's going to be incorrect. And this one is the correct one. You can't lose any more than 4. If you commit every single error on that parallel parking maneuver, then the maximum you can lose is 4 points, even if you miss everything. Okay. Remember not to multiply deduction scores by the number of errors that were made, right? So the most you can lose here is 2 points. 5 errors occur, but the total point deduction is still only 2 points, not 10. Only 2. That's it. You're like, wow, that was a lot of a mistake. Yeah, but it's still only 2. Although really, that's probably a poor example. You won't have 3 instances of not being centered. You could have 3 tries, but not 3 centers. So we probably should correct that. We're going to get a point deduction for this presentation. All right, now remember, circle every error made during a test. Don't wait until the end of the test to circle errors. Score them as they happen. You'll forget. You'll forget. Memory studies show we remember the first things we did and the last things we did, and very little that happened in the middle. If you're not sure of the deduction, make a note on the side of the paper that you keep blank paper with you and take little notes on the side. You can look it up at the end of the test if you're not sure. You got the job 8 sheet, take it with you. Take a peek. See if you can find it if you don't know what it is. Remember, don't circle any of the points until the test has ended. Make sure the circle is big enough that it's readable, and only for each error, only one corresponding error circled or the line drawn through it. Don't insert your own interpretations. Follow the definitions as they are written. If you didn't see it happen because you were looking down at your paper or watching a butterfly, or if the error is not listed in the manual, don't score it. And remember, here's another thing to remember. If an automatic disqualification occurs, which we'll do in the next video, if an automatic disqualification occurs, stop circling errors, don't circle any of the subscores, don't add points. The test is ended at that moment. Here's a big key. I want you to read this book. And when you're done, read it again, and 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 again. I've been doing this for 10 years. I've done over 7,000 driving tests. I still read the book. I'm just a nerd about it that way, and I know not enough people do, and I see errors. I go out and help people do their check rides, and I'll explain it to them. And even I'll have to look back up things like passing, because you rarely score those. Right, it's not very common. Please read the book again and again and again and again. Please also do the math correctly. Remember, applicant, it's a weird system. I don't care for it, but this is the system we're given. Applicants start with 100 points. You got to total up the number of errors and subtract that from 100. So in this case, 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 is 16. Subtract that from 100, it's 84. You got to do a little cashier math here. I'm sorry to break that to you. It's just the way it was designed. Why can't the score just be 16 and you have to have 20 or less to pass? I don't know. Couldn't tell you that. The knowledge test should be the same way. So, applicants can lose 20 points and still pass. The minimum score is an 80. Please use a calculator if you need to. A lot of examiners do. So if you think, oh, I don't want to be the only one using a calculator, most of them do. Don't feel like you're the only one. Use a calculator. After a while, you'll probably get used to it. You start seeing you got 5 4-point things scored, that's 20 points. Anything below that, you know, you're already deducting from 80 now instead of 100. You saved yourself a little bit of trouble. Okay, so looking at this sample test here, what's wrong with this one? So you can see we've got a curb 4 in the back maneuver. Park and start on a hill, we've got wheels were turned in the wrong direction and they made more than 2 moves after entering the space. Right? Now 4 plus 4 plus 2. However, we're not supposed to circle the 2-point subscore because a 4-point is the maximum you can lose for that. You can't lose 6. You can only lose 4 on the park and start in a hill maneuver. Total score should have been a 92. All right, what about this one? Looking at here, we got traffic control device, 4 points. Hesitation of the traffic signal light for 2. Uncontrolled intersection, we had a vision error, but only a 2-point was circled there. So in this case, the wrong subscore was circled because it's not the one in the same horizontal line section. Total should have been 90. Remember, you're not in a hurry. Check carefully at the end. Also, remember to check the yes box. They passed. Did they qualify? Yes, you qualified. Check the yes box. What about this one? Backing, okay, looks fine. Parallel parking on the curb, parked down on the hill, 4. Right of way, 1 hand 2. Oh, what do we got here? I think I see what it is. The math error. Yeah, total should have been 86. 100 minus 14. Remember, you can use a calculator, and I'll tell you, especially do this for your check ride. Bring it with you. Even if you never use a calculator, bring it for your check ride. All right, what's wrong here? We've got a yes and an 81. Nothing scored. No deductions are shown. Score of 81 is listed. It's what they call mental scoring. This could mean you, well, the applicant might have to take a re-exam. You're probably going to get a check ride from an auditor, and they may bring an action against you and your school for doing this, especially if there's a pattern of doing it. Always, always circle the errors as they occur. So this was a real example where a customer went back to a licensed service office and was given this score. And then the customer failed with a dangerous action. Now, the licensed office person also made errors here. Right? Did the LSO examiner make any mistakes? Yeah, sure did. Right over there on left turns, forgot to do the subscore. And then also added an extra subscore on right turns. Yeah, we're not all perfect, that's for sure. But really, if there's an automatic disqualification, that dangerous action, they shouldn't have circled any of the subscores. All right, next video, we're going to talk about causes for automatic disqualification. See you then.